It's been a real groovy day and a great evening, and here's, let's bring on with a big hand, Mr. Otis Redding.
Everybody said, shit! Let me hear the whole crowd, shit! Everybody said, shit!
Can I just buy that one Otis Redding off of you, please?
10 cents.
Let me give you $10. It's worth 20 times that.
Okay, because you've got principles and because you took the trouble to come up here, but that's it. And don't think that you're going to buy these one by one.
Welcome to We Will Rank You, the podcast where we take an album or a year or a cartoon show or a collection of greatest hits and rank them. I almost said my radio name. It's just so natural to come out. I'm Sam the Butcher. I'm Sam, and I'm in Colorado, and we'll have Dan say where he's from and say hello.
Hello, Oakland, California.
And Adam.
I am down in San Diego, California, where we all used to live.
And Jim.
I am about 3 hours north of Adam in the Santa Barbara area. Let's put it that way.
Jim is
it sounds better.
Mysterious.
Mysterious Jim.
He doesn't want to be tracked down.
Here, let me look at his address. I have it in my phone. It is...
Oxnard is just not a pretty word. Let's use Santa Barbara.
Hey, Anderson .Paak made it cool.
That's true.
So tonight we are continuing with the theme that Adam came up with for ranking greatest hits albums, the greatest hits on the album of the artist of our choice. And Adam chose Queen. I have chosen Otis Redding. And while I initially said, I believe Otis, the very best of Otis Redding, I changed course because what I was thinking of was a tape that I had in high school. And there was one song on this the collection that was on that tape that was not on the very best of Otis Redding that I was like, no, we need this song on here.
So was it a mixtape that some girl made you? Is that what we're ranking?
No, I sent the cover art. I actually had to look it up on Discogs because I wanted to make sure that I had like the actual ranking, and so I made a playlist, set the playlists, sent it out to the guys, and said,
that was so useful.
Can we rank like 4 songs fewer? And everyone said yes, please.
Yes, please. I have a question. Did anyone else listen to it the night that you announced it? Because I did.
What do you mean?
Because when we do record, sometimes I'm so excited for the next one, I listen to it. So I went and listened to it, and the first thing I thought was, 3 mellow songs in a row. I know some people that are probably going to get bored on this one. So when you messaged the next day saying, I changed my mind, I was like, yes. It was like, this is going to be great. So funny enough, I looked it up. There are 23 different Otis Redding compilations on Wikipedia. Yeah. The one that you had isn't on there. It exists. So it's on Discogs, but for whatever reason, I don't know.
Yeah.
Ooh, and I recognized that album art that you sent around.
Did you?
Yeah. I definitely feel like I saw that one.
Okay, because I was going to say...
What's the name of this, the one we're ranking?
The one we're ranking was just the best of Otis Redding.
Right.
So
and I'd never seen
not
it.
the very best. It's the best.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
1984, Sam? 1984?
Somewhere in there. 84, 85.
Sam, you chose this one for the one extra song. You have to tell us, did that song make your top 5?
Ooh.
I don't know what it is, so
we
that's
will
not a
find
spoiler.
out.
Yeah, come on.
Don't forget to mention it if it does.
Good
absolutely.
man.
Absolutely.
I have to say that was the first time I've ever had to Photoshop our logo, and I had never seen that album cover before.
Oh, yeah.
It was interesting.
That's super interesting.
Yeah, loved it.
So
You'd even seen the Rod Stewart one, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, seen it. But
once.
Hadn't really listened to it. So just quick background. Otis Redding was born in September 1941, September 9th. So he just celebrated his 9 squared birthday.
9 squared.
81.
Nice.
He would have been 81 this year.
Okay.
He died in 1967 in a plane crash at the age of 26. The thing that blows my mind about Otis Redding dying at 26 is these songs do not sound like a 26-year-old. The voice on there sounds so worn and world weary. But yeah, so it's amazing. We'll get into that. He started performing at a young age in Macon, Georgia, where he grew up, with other boys from his church. That was, kind of a thing for young boys to do, is, singing in church groups. Like, as I'm reading actually The Unfinished Life, the biography of Otis Redding, and it was talking a lot about Macon and how, like, black music was really kind of coming into its own in like the late 40s, early 50s. I mean, obviously there was jazz, obviously there was like so many big bands, but like the birth of rhythm and blues and rock and roll. And that's kind of where we find Otis Redding kind of coming up. And, excuse me. So he started his recording career, I think he was like 19 years old, which seems pretty young for now, but for back then, I mean, I think there was so many people just, like wanting to capitalize on the music that was happening. So 3 of the songs on this collection were posthumous releases. That's the amount of quality material he recorded before he died. There are 2 songs on here that what we'd consider covers, which is Otis recording popular songs of the day. But there's only 2 others that were written by someone other than Otis himself or with co-writers on this album, which we'll probably get into as we go through them. But I thought that was a really interesting thing, because like a couple of his most famous songs, actually a few of his most famous songs are covers, or songs that he did that other people wrote, but then again, like a lot of the ones that a lot of people know now were written by Otis, which is pretty cool. So and I will throw it over to somebody else so I can come back, and so I'm not just talking for hours. Dan, what's your life experience of Otis Redding and his music?
Yeah, well, first of all, only for this pod did I happen to look up at some point, like, did he write this? And that's when I realized how many songs he wrote. I think I mostly assumed that a lot of artists of this era were like great singers, great performers, and they kind of had a machine behind them of sort of writers and arrangers and stuff. And I was stunned / impressed that so much of the stuff he wrote or co-wrote, which is awesome. Otis for me is like so many artists of kind of the 50s and 60s, where it was a couple of generations before us. So who knows where I heard this first? It was just sort of ambiently played around, right? Like there were a couple of songs that just were played. My parents definitely weren't R&B soul people at all. So I hadn't heard this at home, but I felt like, I'd kind of heard a couple of these things just along the way. And I'm actually embarrassed to say, I think my first introduction to soul was actually when the movie The Commitments came out in 1991.
For a lot of people, I think, yeah.
Good old classic, learning about black music through white people. That's what I was doing.
Man, literally what I was going to say. Go ahead.
But I was in like a used CD store, and instead of them having the soundtrack to The Commitments, Atlantic Records put out this thing that was the music that inspired The Commitments. And it was just this collection of soul. And I was like, I think at the time I was maybe even bummed, but I was like, I'll just buy this instead. And it was great. It had Aretha, it had Otis, it had Sam Cooke, all the stuff you'd expect. And it had 4 Otis songs, 3 of which are on this. And the 4th is going to be my recommendation for what I would add.
Nice.
And then after college, that was during college, that was 91. I was still living in LA, and these 2 women who were way cooler than I was dragged me to this bar in LA that would do this R&B and soul night a few times a month, where there would just be these cover bands that just did all the like classics of the 60s, and it was so much fun. And I think that's when I really started to fall in love with that kind of music. I have a real soft spot for that, as you guys know from the live album episode. But that being said, I never owned like a bunch in this genre, and I've actually never owned a full Otis Redding album. So some of these I feel like I was hearing for the first time, which was awesome. Or I was like, I think maybe I've heard that, but I definitely got much more acquainted with a deeper set of his stuff through this exercise. So thanks for that.
Good. Yeah. Adam?
I probably heard him first just on oldies radio, sitting on the dock of the bay like most folks our age. My family's from Detroit, so I was brought up on Motown, but I don't remember ever hearing a mention. And in fact, I asked my dad if it was him or my uncle that might have said the unforgettable quote of, "Oh, this is a medley of his greatest hit," once when Sitting on the Dock of the Bay came on the radio, and I was okay,
Wow.
there's a little more to it, Dad, but way to show your deep love of soul music. I'm from Detroit. Like Dan, I was absolutely going to mention The Commitments. I loved that movie. There is a picture of my college apartment where I'm sure all three of you visited at some point in Northridge, and it's album flats on every surface, but over the couch is a Commitments poster. And loved the movie, loved the soundtrack. I had that CD that you were just talking about, Dan. Completely forgot about it. Completely forgot that I had that.
I just pulled it out tonight.
So funny. I'm curious to see what the cover is, because once you said it, I definitely had it. And I have Otis Blue because I remember reading at some point that was considered his most famous one, but I have his box set, Otis ! And it's
nice.
Great. And it gave me just about everything I needed.
Sure.
So that's me and Otis.
I've never seen The Commitments, by the way.
Oh, you're in for a treat.
I actually don't know if it holds up. I haven't seen it since back then.
Oh, I don't know either. I would think so.
I mean, it's a bunch of it's Irish folks, right?
That's that's the fun conceit.
Probably still holds up.
It's great.
Jim.
Dude, Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. End of story.
Right.
I mean, obviously, the name, he's an entity, he's an important entity. But it's just in the ether for me. It's never listened to music, never tried to, never went to the record store and tried to explore more. So this was brand new to me. And, wait, that's him? Oh, that's a cover? That type of stuff happened to me all over this album.
Nice.
Cool.
And I purposely didn't look up YouTube stuff on him or anything before this so that I could just kind of be fresh. So,
well, hopefully, I mean, there's obviously plenty to explore, especially the Monterey Pop performance that he did. That was caught on film, caught on record. But for myself, like you said, Dock of the Bay, knew that one. Everybody knows that one, I feel like. And I don't know that I really knew much Otis until probably Pretty in Pink. I'll say it. But then, and I don't remember exactly when I got this tape, but it just, I was just really struck by, not only the greatness of, Try a Little Tenderness, no spoilers, but the other songs too. I mean, like that I'd never really heard, right? Like, and, listened to it, and somewhere along the line became aware of the fact that my parents went to high school with Steve Cropper and Duck Dunn, who I probably knew mostly from the Blues Brothers movie.
Sure.
But then I guess it was probably like the early 90s, like 93, when I was working at Sam Goody, that for Christmas one year, knowing that...
How do I not know that you worked at Sam Goody?
What? How did you not?
I do not remember that at all.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, you had to. I'm sure my name tag was like lying around somewhere.
I mean, it's so on the nose. Okay.
Right. But, buying Christmas gifts from my dad, who grew up in Memphis. My mom and dad grew up in Memphis. And, he was like, I mean, he's been listening to like the blues and, all that kind of music, black music for like pretty much most of his life. And so I bought him the Stax Volt box set, which is like 9 CDs of like all the singles.
I remember that, yeah.
Nice.
And so, listening to that and just getting immersed in that and loving all of that. And then I got the Otis Redding Anthology, which was like a late 90s Rhino Records release, which has even earlier songs than the ones that we know, or the ones that are on this that were on this playlist. And such a great performer. And I just kind of like latched onto him as being like one of my favorite performers and singers, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this. So let's get into it. Let's start with let's just do the same order that we did. I think I shouldn't go last though. That's kind of gauche, right? If you pick the album, you shouldn't be going last.
Plenty of people do it.
I don't think there's rules on that.
It's good. You're intimately knowledgeable. You can send us home with a tear in our eye. Hopefully.
I will start. Actually, I will start. And then we'll go me, Dan, Adam, and Jim. I like to have Jim ending the stuff just because he's always got such emotion to bring to it.
Bring the emotion, Jim. Bring the emotion.
There you go, right there.
Dan's so cerebral. He always has such great things to say, but it's always Jim that kind of brings it home with like the emotion and the.
Hey, we all know Jim. I'm the brain. Jim's the heart. That's just.
And Adam's the mouth, and I must be the foot. I don't know.
You're the what?
Eyelashes.
The eyebrows.
Well, you should say what we're ranking though. We're just the top.
Oh
five.
yes, thank you. Yes, we are going to do the same thing. I might have initially said that we were going to do the Cathcart method, but thinking about it, I really liked Adam's the gimbal way of doing the.
I love
the
when you called it the greatest hits method.
Yeah, the greatest hits method. So starting off, we're going to talk about the song that we liked the least. Not that it's the worst song, but the song that we liked the least. And then we'll say the song that we feel should have been on here instead of the song that we liked the least, or at least the songs that we like the least on here. So the one I liked the least is his cover of My Girl.
Cloudy day, and it's cold outside. I've got the month of May.
It's obviously a song by Smokey Robinson, and it's not a great cover. I didn't think it misses a lyric. He mentions "I've got so much lovin'. The bees envy me" instead of "I've got so much honey, the bees envy me." So it kind of misses that point.
Wow, I never noticed that one.
Oh,
it's like that over the rainbow cover that everyone loves, where it makes almost no sense.
Oh, right.
The guy's singing.
Right.
Yeah.
And he misses a note or two singing. So I imagine it was probably one of those things where like, My Girl, like let's do that, like and just boom, hit it, and and they run through it, and he's just kind of like freestyling the lyrics a little bit, misses a couple notes, and putting it out because it's a popular song. It's a great song, obviously, and probably one of the best Motown songs ever, but it didn't really do it for me. The song that I feel should have been on this compilation, These Arms of Mine.
These arms of mine, they are lonely and fielding blue.
I think that's absolutely one of his best songs. It was his first single that was released on the Volt label, so the sister label to the Stax. It was released in 1962, and he wrote this song, and it would go on to sell 800,000 copies. I mean, which is kind of mind-boggling, I feel like, today for, when we think back 50s, 60s, 70 years ago, like these songs selling 1 million copies is like blows my mind. And he was 20 years old, and then listening to that 20-year-old sing and tell me that voice isn't the voice of someone so much older who's seen it all and knows the person in front of them is who they want to be with. It's absolutely should have been on this compilation, and it's probably on all the others, but
the whole album, I was listening to a guy that was older than me. I'm 51 years old, and the dude singing all those songs was definitely, in my mind, older than me.
Or at least wiser.
Both.
And he died in December of 67, so he was just 26. I mean, he was a green 26. So that's my bottom song and the one that should have been on. So let's go to Dan.
With you 100%, Sam. It's definitely My Girl. You said it all. This just sounds like a cover that he dashed off. It's just the rest of this album, he brings so much. In fact, I think you said there's one other cover. Like, he transforms the other cover on this album. Right. This cover, it really just feels like I could see the label basically saying like, hey, let's put a popular cover on, let's put My Girl on. I totally get it. That's fine. But I can't believe it made a 12-song greatest hits. Like that's what blew me away. And maybe it did really well because people were so hungry for it. To your point, the original is a classic. This to me just didn't need to be here. Every time I was re-listening to the album and this came on, I was like, let's just get to the other stuff. So the one that was on that Commitments compilation that was not on this was I've Got Dreams to Remember.
I've got dreams to remember. I've got dreams to remember.
So I will nominate that because A, it's a great song. It's like nostalgic, it's sweet, but on top of that, let's be honest, I don't know the Otis catalog that deeply, so I'm going to nominate it for that reason as well. But I do love it.
Yeah, there's so many great songs that are not on this. It blows my mind.
Well, 12 songs is tight.
Right.
All right, Adam.
Well, we usually before we do these, we always say there's a clear last place, and
there is.
We're all doing poker face right now because my last place is also My Girl, and I was thinking that maybe this could be the one. This is our 25th episode. Everybody, congratulations to us.
Oh my God, I didn't get you guys anything.
Is it silver or paper? So
Jade.
We've never all agreed on a last place. We always joke about it. I'm pretty sure we never have.
Yeah, I absolutely don't think we have.
It'll be on Jim, so we'll know in a second. I was totally watching your faces to see a reaction when he said My Girl, and I said, noted. Anyway, yeah, same thing you guys just said. It was written by Smokey Robinson, but he actually wrote it for the Temptations, who had the big hit with it.
Right.
Released in December '64. Otis had his version out within a year, so it was still brand new. And one of the best parts about that song is the backing vocals, and there's not any on this. That doesn't mean, that it has to be on every cover. I love it when people make it their own, but it's just okay. And it's not bad by any means. It's just okay. As far as one that I thought should have been on here, to me, that was so easy because my first listen through, I was thinking, gosh, he was such an incredible live performer, and I've seen enough footage of him. Dan talked about Aretha Franklin playing these songs hyperspeed and putting in so much energy into these studio recordings, and he was definitely that.
Yeah.
So I knew for sure that it was going to be something like that, probably from Monterey Pop, probably Shake, because that's the song that you end up seeing most in documentaries and whatnot. Easy until I thought, well, I'll just take one look and see other songs of his that I could have remembered. And one stood out immediately. And the reason I know it is because I had a roommate named Zach when I lived in Hillcrest. I don't know if you guys remember him. We lived together for about a year or two. He moved to the Bay Area and got married in this incredible artist colony in Marin County called the Headlands Center for the Arts. I don't know if it's way up there. It was an old army barracks, and it's just insane. Amazing wedding, and he was starting songs by remote control during the ceremony, and we all got a CD that was this masterpiece of little clips of songs that I'd never heard of and songs I did know, and they all wove into each other. It was amazing, including, funny enough, a little bit of this one song by Queen that I almost made my shoulda, coulda, woulda when we did it last week, even though I've only ever heard the guitar intro. It's so great. It's a song called Sweet Lady. I highly recommend you look it up. It's just this crunchy guitar intro, and then he went into something else, and I had to look it up because I didn't know what it was. I'd never heard more than 10 seconds. So, but the other song on it was this song of his called Shout Bamalama. It was his third single, and he's from Macon, Georgia, and so is Little Richard, and this is him doing Little Richard.
Yeah.
Okay, hold it right down there. Hold it. He's down in Alabama. I'm shouting Bamalama. Way down in Louisiana. Well, nobody's gonna set him down.
It smokes. It is recorded in 1960. released under the name Otis Redding and the Pine Toppers. It was the last of his 3 singles that did not chart before he got famous.
Wow.
But the thing about it is when I clicked on it, when I was trying to find it for this podcast, I clicked on it and it sounded weak. And I was like, what is wrong? Like, I must have heard another version. It had this intro that was longer. So I clicked on the next one and there it was, screaming out of the speakers. Right. And it turned, I had to look it up and I can't find any information on how or why they did it. But after he passed away, it was released as a single with new drums and bass. And it's a little bit distorted and more rocking. Everything else is the same as far as I can tell. And it sounds like Rock from the Crypt or Blues Explosion almost. It's just, it shouldn't sound that rocking for something that was way before he got famous, but it's just amazing. So that's my shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Yeah,
Jesus.
Nice.
The anthology that I was talking about, that's the first song on it. And I ordered that anthology, probably from, Columbia House or whatever, and got it, put the CD in, and I had never heard that before. And I was a big Otis fan anyway. And then it comes out the speakers, and the guy's like, hey. It's
there's a big crowd having a party practicing.
Way down in Louisiana. And I was just
oh my God.
What?
Yeah.
Blew
If
my
you've never
mind.
heard the other one, it's still smoking, but you got to find this version from 1968
So
on,
good.
King Records. I had to look it up.
Okay.
I couldn't find the story behind it or who played the overdubs or why it was done.
Right.
But it's amazing.
So good. Jim,
here we go. Could be historic.
Oh my God,
Maybe
that
not.
was so long. I mean, you're so it's so deep and rich with information and knowledge about the topic tonight. And guys, I was like, let me hit play on this thing. And I got to these covers of other people's songs, and I was like, why the hell is he doing My Girl? And then I went, why the hell is he doing I Can't Get No Satisfaction? Oh my God, that is definitely last place. And so it's last place.
Oh!
missed it by that much.
I can't get no satisfaction. I can't get no satisfaction. I have tried.
I like My Girl a lot better than Satisfaction.
Interesting.
That's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
But I put those two as my last two on the album. Just like why am I listening on this program to a guy cover? You know what I mean? Like I was disgusted. And then
at least we keep tradition. Tradition remains. We continue to not have the same last place.
Damn it.
So anyway, I skipped over that song so many times, but it's still in my head, the Satisfaction cover. But the one that I would substitute in, I had to look up, and I literally went on Spotify and it was like click, 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 and then I heard.
Just like that.
And then Angel Got Its Wings.
Thank you, Sam.
and then I heard The Dog. And so that was, I was like, hey, the Specials do The Dog. So Otis Redding has a song called The Dog that definitely is a version or the inspiration for Do The Dog.
Oh, wow. Because Rufus Thomas did it first, and I guess he covered it.
Right.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's my thing. Me going last on this, Sam, I just don't know what you're going to get. I mean, this could be a big turd party on the part. I mean, it's going to be a love fest, and then and here we go.
I mean, that's what we're doing, right? Like it's either way it turns out. Like that's how I stack the deck. So
We're locked in now, baby.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
all right. So going in the top 5, my number 5 is a sad song.
How many are there?
This was one he wrote with Steve Cropper. I remember when I first heard this song, reading the name and wondering what it was about. Like, what is this song gonna be? Like just saying it, I feel like an idiot, like, and I can't imagine being like a radio announcer.
You have to sing it. You have to sing it every time you say it.
Can't imagine being a radio announcer going like, okay, and here's the new one from Otis Redding. Fa, 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 fa. Or you just call it sad song from Otis Redding. But then he starts singing, and I was like, what is it? Now he's singing the thing. But then when he gets to the your turn and then throws it to the horns, it all comes together. And it's just that call and response. Like, here's how I feel. Now you tell me how you feel. Putting it back to him. And then, drawing on that like big gospel tradition of, the church and stuff like that, and kind of like doing that back and forth. And I guess I read that he, that's how he would tell the horn players, like that's what their part was, like here's what it's supposed to sound like. But it's not a sad song at all. It just shows it just shows how sad feelings can be transformed through music or into joy, or at least make the sadness dissipate. And knowing that someone else out there feels the same way, it's not Morrissey and the Smiths kind of make that feeling, channeling that feeling. But yeah, it's a sad song, but it's not a sad song, which I kind of love. So.
I love how that's self-aware. It's him talking about, I keep singing sad songs.
Right.
And there's a few songs on this album where he's referring to him being kind of like the Morrissey of the day, King of Moab, like it's great. I love that he has a sense of humor about himself.
Yeah.
And is that, self-aware.
That's great. Super fun. Dan.
Sam, are you going to tell us where your line is on this album?
Ooh.
Is there a better time to do that?
No, I think now is fine. My line's probably above. I'd say above 11, so 10 and above. Just kind of looking at my list. That's right.
Line being the ones that you love.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah,
Thank you, Jim. We need to explain that. Yes.
Yeah, the ones that I love, the ones that I want to hear more and more.
Right, and this is a 12-song album, we should probably say. So my line is 8 and above.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
8 solid ones. The others I could do without. And my number 5 is I Can't Turn You Loose.
Yes.
This is just one of those like soul review. This is just, this is one of those things Otis was built to sing, right? And Sam, you just talked a lot about the lyrics of what he sings, but let's talk about how he sings that, because his delivery is so distinctive, especially on these up-tempo ones where he just sort of attacks every word. I couldn't think of another singer that like really has that style. And
Staccato.
To me, this song is a total showcase of that. It's got plenty of those classic gotcha, and the horn keeps breaking down. This song's a little bit repetitive, but it works in this song. It's just sort of like, it just keeps going. The word I put down for him, just because it's one of my favorite words in the English language anyways, is indefatigable. Can't even pronounce it. Cannot be tired out. Indefatigable. And,
is that really a word?
And that's the thing. He just goes and goes. This feels like it's one big circle, and it's him, and then it's the horns, then it's him, and it's the horns.
Yeah.
The bassist is bringing us through. And of course, the Blues Brothers, did this to great effect and kind of took it and ran with it.
That's the opening of the Blues Brothers.
Yeah,
right there.
Their intro music. Yeah, it's so good.
But
overrated movie. Overrated.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, we got to end the podcast now. I have to go lie down. That's a bunch of shit.
That's the other place we all heard this stuff, to be honest. But
Yeah.
Basically,
Aretha,
anytime Otis sings that he can't or he won't or he hasn't, like that's the ingredients of a good song, and that includes this one.
Very good. Love that.
Nice. All right. My number 5 is Hard to Handle. And that is one that wasn't on the very best of Otis that you sent out. And I was like, wow, no Hard to Handle. Okay.
That was a little too hard to handle for you, I
apparently. I always think, the Black Crowes version is so much better. But man, listening to this gave me such an appreciation again of the groove on this one. The horns are so good on this. I really didn't think it was going to be this high, and I'm like, oh wait, no, it is great, and it's hard to forget. We kind of grew up with the Crowes version,
right?
And Jim and I saw them in '91 at the Santa Barbara Bowl, and maybe 2 nights later, Dan and I saw them at the Greek Theater in LA. And I thought, it's such a great version, but never thought I was a huge fan. Probably would never see them again. And then I got this strange bit of news a few years ago that a friend of mine from San Diego, Isiah Mitchell, who played in mainly, his main band is Earthless, which is this heavy kind of instrumental psych band. But he also played in an incredible, fun soul cover band here in San Diego that's been around for years called Lady Dottie and the Diamonds. So I saw him play Hard to Handle more than once. So he became the lead guitarist for the Black Crowes recently.
Oh, wow.
And Dan and I got to see them down in Chula Vista. And then I flew to Denver near Sam and saw them at Red Rocks. And it was incredible. I also got to see they did a tour preview at the what was it? It was at the Troubadour in LA, and I think I only took one video that I really wanted to get, and that's him launching into that solo. I was crying, like tears of, proud dad joy watching him do this. Not that it was in front of an arena, but it was so fantastic. So, of course, I had to reach out to him and see if I could get him to send us his favorite Otis Redding song. Nice. Didn't hear back from him, but in what seems to be a recurring theme here, he got back to me from Ireland just a few hours ago, sent me just a short, quick note for his shoulda, woulda, coulda to be on the very best. He just wrote, my favorite tune of his is That's How Strong My Love Is, which is fantastic. So good.
If I were the sun way up there, I'll glow with love most everywhere. I'll be the moon when the sun goes down, just to let you know that I'm still around.
He has so many, but that one's beautiful. So thanks, Isiah, for letting us know. And that's my number 5.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Adam,
yes,
you're right. Number 5 is Hard to Handle for me as well. And you know what? You always think, I grew up with English Beats, Tears of a Clown, before I heard Smokey, right? And right. And you think that the first one you hear is going to be the one that you prefer, but I was really digging the original version here. It is, it could fall into third verse, same as the first, and just a little, it doesn't go a lot of different places. There's no interesting bridges or whatever, but it does what it does so well. I love, I'm advertising love for free, so won't you place an ad with me?
It's one of such a great lyric. I love that lyric.
Yeah. So Hard to Handle, number 5.
Excellent.
Nice.
Thank you, boys. Yeah, I was going to mention that lyric before you did, Jim. And it's also, I also wanted to mention that it's interesting because he mentions like at the very end saying like, give it to me sort of thing, which is kind of echoes what he says in Respect as well. So that kind of, something he returns to, like a phrase he returns to or stuff like that. My number 4 is Sitting on the Dock of the Bay.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was reading tonight that this was kind of news to me that Steve wrote a bunch of the lyrics. I guess Otis came to him with the line about the ships coming in and watch him go away again, and that was like one of the only lyrics. And then they had the music, obviously, and then Steve kind of fleshed out the lyrics, which I thought was really interesting. But this is one of the posthumous releases. Right after he died, they released it in January of '68, and he recorded it right before he died. I mean, like literally, I read that he recorded it twice, and one of them was just days before the plane crash. But again, like, what's to say about the song that hasn't already been said? I love the effect of the waves throughout the song and the seagulls that kind of keeps bringing it back. And the words, it's interesting too. Like, one of the interesting things that I realized about this song is that the words are really bleak. He's very resigned to where he's at. Left my home in Georgia, came to Frisco Bay. Nobody calls it Frisco, by the way. I've got nothing to live for. Seems like nothing's going to come my way. I mean, it's really bleak.
Sounds like a sad song.
It does. Really? That's right. And he's kind of resigned to it. And it's that old saying, like, if you ain't where you are, you're no place. And he's very much where he is. He's just right there on the dock of the bay. But then the whistling at the end gives the bleakness of the lyrics a more lighthearted feel. And you kind of get the feeling that everything's going to be fine. So, like, just the whistling, not the lyrics, but the whistling at the end. He's like, all right, I'm just going to sit here. I'm just going to whistle. And you're like, all right, everything's fine. So that kind of change in tone was kind of something that kind of caught me. But yeah, it's my number 4.
I was kind of surprised. I did end up watching a couple of things in the last day or so, like a couple of documentaries, that people really in his camp that were like purists for soul really didn't like this song. Yeah. I can't. It doesn't seem that out of place. They were like, oh my gosh, it was so like pop, and he was being influenced by going to Monterey, and he wrote it on a houseboat in Sausalito apparently. So he was in California. Like, really? It just sounds like a mellow soul song to me, and like whistling is such a Southern thing. Like, what's the big deal? I did have to give a quick shout out to one of my favorite uses of that whistle, just in case no one else does, and that is in this song right here, Dead Souls, I Know.
They've already been squished. Freeze a frame of our moves the same, which we can continue right behind the bush. You'll stay with me,
which I bought recently for the great Charles Phoenix. I Know is his big catchphrase. Shout out to him.
That gorgeous multicolored skirt is an extravaganza of yarn-dyed plaid. I know.
And that's all I have to say about it.
Wow. Hey, is it true that the whistling was a placeholder, that he was going to go back and write more lyrics?
Oh, I don't know.
I heard that.
Look at Jim coming in with the extra research.
I don't know.
I told you did none. I will tell you that I did read about that one song.
I love it. You scooped us all.
Fair enough.
I don't know. Look, I'll fess up. I always have that song. I feel like each time that I feel guilty for not liking more. Mine on this album is Sittin' on the Dock of the Bay. Spoiler alert, you're not going to hear it in my top 5. I just, I've never been able to connect to the song that much. There's things I appreciate about it. It's above my line, but it's funny. The whistling doesn't connect with me, and I don't think it has all those classic things about Otis. I've just never been able to totally connect with it, so...
Yeah, it's definitely more mellow, like Adam said. I mean, because like, especially like a lot of the songs where he's got that pleading, that like driving home his feeling and his passion. And this one's just like, fuck it, man. I'm on the dock of the bay. Let it happen.
It's
like,
beautiful.
Whatever.
It's perfect.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. It is a different side. Well, let's talk about that mellow pleading. Adam, you said... worried about too many mellow songs. I say bring on the mellow songs. Mellow Otis is fucking amazing. And my number 4 is I've Been Loving You Too Long.
I've been loving you too long to stop now.
My God, is that a track? Here's the image that came to my mind as I was listening to this thing. I said it has the slow burn of two faces approaching for a first kiss. I mean, it just feels so full of tension, so full of like so many conflicting emotions.
Yeah.
This thing couldn't move slower if it tried, but it's just the perfect showcase for Otis to just do his pleading thing on top of, and it's like we're on a gym floor, it's slow dance time, and everything's going down. Relationships are starting, relationships are ending, some are gonna get consummated tonight. Like, it's all happening to this song. It feels like it's just it's beautiful. And the thing that they do brilliantly in this song is like it basically floats along on these arpeggios that he sings over, but at the end of each verse there's some sort of tension, like there's a horn stab or the notes ascend, like da na na na, and then they release again and it floats again. And so it's this like combination of like tense and then let's go again. And I could listen to it 100 times in a row. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I think it's such a tribute to Otis that he can do the fast stuff I was just talking about, the super urgent, like soul, just, owning the stage, the stuff that Adam was talking about live. And then he can do this, where it's just the most gorgeous thing you've heard. And he excels at both, It's not like one is filler for the other. So I loved that juxtaposition.
True.
Oh my God. I think Dan and I are going to have completely different top fives. Did I just say that Dan, that did put Jim on the floor because I freaking just fell asleep. The modulate the key, at the end, and I'm like, I've heard it all, and now they're gonna do it again in another key, that arpeggio, like that dum dum bum bum. It reminds me of Unchained Melody, and that I hate that song too. I don't hate this song. This one's pretty, but it is, it's not my thing.
All right, what you got then? Oh no, you're not up. You're not up. All right, we'll see what you got.
Well, my number 4, I think, is going to ruin. I'm about to ruin what I thought might be all of our number 1, because someone is going to try a little tenderness first. I'm just going to say it right now to try and predict. I will try and read your faces, but I always thought that this was going to be the ultimate, and for some reason I couldn't get it any higher than number 4. It's got that slow build. What I ended up loving the most, I think, was all these little licks that are being thrown in by the guitar and the piano in between lines. More than anything, more than the build, more than the urgency. For some reason, the arrangement and the sparseness of the whole first part, building tension, they do so great in a lot of these songs. So I think that one is incredible. Of course, we all think of Ducky in Pretty in Pink. Pretty in Pink was one of the first albums we ever talked about when we did mention it. I think I put Otis over the end credits of our Origins episode. I completely forgot that I did that. But for me, my favorite movie scene with that in it is the scene from The Commitments. Andrew Strong is 15 going on 16, if you can believe it, the singer in that movie.
Wow.
And talk about Otis sounding older than his age. This kid has razor blades for breakfast, lunch, and dinner and just sounds amazing.
Oh, she may be weary, and young girls, they do get weary, wearing that same old shaggy dress.
And that's kind of the point of the movie, is that they're rough city kids, and the Irish can identify with the deep South, the longing and all of that. So interesting. Three Dog Night had a hit with it a couple of years later. I did not know that, but love the song. Just can't believe I didn't love it more. So I think that's the most curious I am about where you guys put it. This song, number 4.
I'm surprised. I mean, it wouldn't fit on the record, but this would be. The Pretty in Pink soundtrack would be that much better with the song on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting because that's a John Hughes movie, and Ferris Bueller, that I think that famously did not come out as a regular soundtrack because it would have been too much licensing to get the Beatles song on there. Oh. So he's not above throwing in a cool oldie.
Right.
There's doing the mess around in planes and trains. There's Twist and Shout. There's this. So I kind of like that. Even though he was the vanguard for putting in modern 80s music, he loved his oldies too, which is a cool touch.
Yeah.
Jim.
Well, number 4 for me is a different slow song, Dan. It's Cigarettes and Coffee.
Wow.
I loved it. I never heard it before. It's different from Oasis's Cigarettes and Alcohol, but I love both those songs.
I assume that's the only reason that you put it on there.
I love all the sinful things. This song, the songs that make obvious rhymes, and you're like, okay, tree is gonna rhyme with me or whatever it is, and you just know it's coming. I get that 2:45 rhymes with cigarettes and coffee, and you know it's coming, but you don't mind it at all, man. It is just delivered so silky smooth right to you, and I love walk down this aisle with me. I love I've known nothing but good old joy, man. It hit me the right way, and so yeah, that's my number 4.
So Jim, where's your line on this album? Sorry, Sam.
Probably 5 and above. Yeah.
Adam.
Interesting. I'm looking at 7 and above, like the other ones, but nothing.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely don't dislike anything on here.
So Jim, Cigarettes and Coffee was the one that I was curious about, like how that sat on your runs.
Oh yeah, it slowed down my pace.
Destroyed his pace. Yeah.
Sam, I got to tell you that obviously I hit play and went out for a run to listen to it for the first time, and that was the last time. Every other time I listened to it had to be in the car or at work or just it
was destroying your times.
Yeah, there was no way.
Yeah,
that's really funny.
All right, so for my number 3, I've been loving you too long to stop now. Nice. This one was Otis Redding and Jerry Butler who wrote this one, 1965. It opens so unassumingly, just his vocal. I mean, and his vocal starts it like it's not, like the intros. Like so many of these have like intros, and then he starts singing. And this one's just, I've been loving you. And then the walking guitar starts, but when he hits, you are tired. The song just cranks in, and it's like it completely hits a different level. His voice, the pleading, which is an Otis staple, but it just keeps escalating. And for me, similar to Try Little Tenderness, but where that song picks up the tempo, this one just keeps building on the same slow beat. And I think Dan, you were talking about that. It doesn't speed up. It doesn't like start going anywhere, but the instruments build and everything, and then his emotions build. He emphasizes that emotion at the end that but it doesn't end in a frenzy, but it just keeps escalating his anguish. And it's wow, what a tune, man. And this is the stuff that this is my bread and butter for Otis, but it's so damn good. You listen to it, like Dan said, 100 times in a row.
Oh, it's so killer. That makes me so happy.
Such a great intro. I was going to say, such a great intro. And I don't know where else to mention this because I forgot to look at this. It seems to me that almost every song on this album fades out. And it's not my favorite thing. I'm sure live it was like a big bah, bah, but It's interesting how that was just a thing for the times.
Totally.
And how many 60s songs fade out. Almost every Beach Boys song, and I guess almost every song on this. It's interesting. Show me a great ending on a soul song. I'd love it.
It reminds me of SNL skits, right? It's like, okay, that was good enough. Let's kill it.
God, terrible.
It's that same feel.
Yeah, terrible.
All right. Well, Jim, you and I, we're not so different. I think I say that once each podcast to try to convince you. My number 3 is Hard to Handle.
The scene. I can give you what you want, but you got to go home with me. I forgot some good old love, and then I got some in store. When I get through throwing it on you, you got to come back for more.
Yeah, of course. Black Crowes All Day, Every Day. I figured that was the definitive version. Boy, was I wrong. I mean, they're both brilliant in their own way, but this one's quite different. And literally, you know, I was second or third time listening to this, and I was like, this truly is like proto hip hop. Like this is a hip hop song, basically. I mean, it is all flow. I mean, this is, to your point, Jim, like, yeah, it's a little samey, but it's all about the way he attacks those words. It's all swagger, man. Like, it's just the way he talks, and obviously the chorus breakdown that we know so well. It's incredible. I feel like this is, let alone the yes or am, which is just incredible, the way he smushes those three words together.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a totally influential stop along that way. Anyways, I just got so much pleasure out of this each time. It's just a total showcase for him, and it was phenomenal.
Yeah,
it's my number 3.
I thought it before I read the lyrics, I thought it was mess around instead of yes.
Yeah. Understandable.
I think I thought it was too. Yeah. My number 3 is my biggest surprise. I had no idea that this was going to be this high, and it's probably somewhat to do with me getting into his appeal, watching some of these documentaries, but remembering that Monterey Pop kind of broke him to a wider audience in a lot of ways. So they talk a lot about how he had all these huge R&B hits, but he didn't quite break into the pop market, but then he did. And what did he do as a result? Being in front of all these white people, he started covering their songs. And so Satisfaction is my number 3.
Oh,
Love it.
And it's mainly because it's the only song out of all these 12 that have that energy that I was hoping was on any of these tracks, like the live stuff, like that Monterey Pop of them doing Shake. And it's not even, it's almost none of the first 2 minutes or whatever it is. It's only that ending that really cooks. Yeah. And he gets super into it. I love the way he sings, I Have Tried. Like he
totally.
That is when these guys were adapting white boy music. Oh my gosh, there's so many great soul Beatle covers. It's unbelievable. Yeah. And he did a mean Day Tripper. Yep. If Day Tripper was on here, it probably would have been here in its place, I guess. But it's just, I'm watching this BBC documentary right before we recorded, because I just wanted to watch a little more, called Soul Ambassador, that's on YouTube, about how much the Brits loved him. And it's so endearing to watch all these mod kids dancing, especially when he's on Ready Steady Go playing songs 10 times too fast and they aren't ready for it. And they're just, these go-go dancers are about to, pass out because it's so good.
By the way, not just I Have Tried, but also I Cannot Get Me No.
Right.
I cannot get me no.
Right. So and the horns, the way they redo the riff. I mean, I don't really love that original song. So
yeah, me neither.
It's there's so many great Stone songs, but that song's
yeah, it's a fucking great Stone song.
It's a great riff, but it just keeps doing that riff for 3 minutes. Give me Devo all day long. But I didn't think that this was going to be that high, and here it is at number 3.
Yeah,
such a mistake.
It just missed my line, Adam. I had it at 6. Ooh. I wanted to fit it in. It's so fun. I think the horns doing the riff is phenomenal. All those drum fills. The bass is like driving the whole thing. It's just oh my God. Super fun. I love it.
Mm-hmm. I've got it at number 11, but I hit on a lot of those things that you said, like Dan. In listening to it and hearing that bass, I was like, this probably has more in common with the Devo cover than the Stones cover. Just like the way that bass kind of like taps in there. It almost sounds like a synth. And Otis just letting loose. It's great. And again, like you said, it's pretty standard for the day, like covering other people's songs. I mean, obviously he did, My Girl and this, and people were doing a lot of other popular songs of the day, like Day Tripper and stuff like that. And I thought the horns kind of almost came across as like mariachi in a couple places, which was kind of interesting. But and like Adam said, the live version just absolutely smokes. Yeah, so fast. And the interesting thing is Adam was just talking about it though, saying like covering, I can't, what is it? What were you saying? I have tried. But, he's doing a song that was the Stones, which is a band that was famous for doing the blues and like trying to do that blues thing. So he's coming across like a little more, getting the words exact as opposed to Mick Jagger, who's like, I can't get no satisfaction. It's like, really? Does your mom talk like that down, South London or whatever? She's
I forgot to look it up. There's some song on Get Your Yayas Out. They cover an Otis Redding song. They were one of the very first bands to ever cover Otis Redding, and Satisfaction was sort of a returning the favor.
Nice.
Which I thought was really cool.
Oh,
Didn't
nice.
know that.
Cool.
All right, so my number 3 is Fa 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 Fa, sad song.
Nice.
I had it down low, and then it just is an earworm, and it just never lets you go. And you're like, damn, that is a freaking great tune. And it just, moved up in the ranks until it landed at number 3. Such a great groove, perfect tempo. It is like finger snapping. I can just see the room just sway into this song. The call and response of the horns is great. I had it down so low because I got so pissed the first time through hearing this song. I was so happy with Your Turn the first time I ever heard it. And I went, oh, God, yes, talk to him, right? And then Our Turn, and it was like, oh, okay, he threw it back to him, okay. And when he got through the one chorus like that, I was like, all right, I'll give him that was just a nice touch. He does it every time.
Right.
He does it every time. It's literally lyrics in the song instead of this little, I'm going to throw it to you guys moment. And that just kind of sours it for me. And so it turned into a part that I really don't like about the song. God, I wish he would have just left it at 1.
One and done.
Yeah, one and done. So, but anyway, that's a great song. I can't believe it's number 3. It rose through the ranks, and I'll probably sing that for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I think I had it lower, but again, like kind of going through and doing the ranking, I just right before the podcast, I'm like, no, this is in my top 5, like absolutely. So at number 2, I have Cigarettes and Coffee.
Wow.
Nice.
It's early in the morning, about 2:45. I'm sitting here talking with my baby over cigarettes and coffee.
And speaking of one that could have changed, this could have easily been my number 1. I probably have made a big mistake. I think it probably should be, but anyway. So this is another one of the songs that Otis did not write. It's not a cover per se, but he didn't write it. It was Jerry Butler, Eddie Thomas, and Jay Walker wrote it a few years, I guess late 50s, I think maybe it was, and somebody else covered it. But it was Al TNT Braggs. And that one, it swings, but it's too clean. It's too polished vocally. With this version, it sounds like he's sitting at a table confessing this to the woman with him. And it's just, I think you mentioned like the 2:45 part. Like just right off the bat, you are in this place. It's early in the morning. It's 2:45. I'm talking with my baby, smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee, and you're right there. And again, like the other song, because I didn't know the other song, I had to go and find it and listen to it. And it's not on Tidal. I think I had to find it on YouTube. But this, to me, is one of his signature songs because of how that emotion comes across, how he's talking to this person, singing but talking, and it's that conversation. It's a Jim Jarmusch film, or whoever's like famous for those kinds of scenes of just like that kind of that talk, just confessing his love for this person. And I mean, one of my favorite memories from high school was when I had this tape, and that's one of the reasons why I chose it, was a friend of mine named Chad, and we were, dumb high schoolers, but early on in the party one night, we're like, we're going to do it tonight. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. And, found, a couple cigarettes and stayed up until 2:45 in the morning. And, still had we had our beers, but we brewed some coffee. And so we sat there to, sit there and listen to this song and, drink coffee and smoke cigarettes at 2:45 a.m.
That's awesome.
Nice.
And,
Nice.
yeah. And so like that kind of memory just really carries it through. But how do you not love a song that has this much emotion in it and this much feeling, and it's another one of those where you listen to it and you're like, 26, like, come on. Like, and I think he recorded it before he was 26. He was probably 24, 25, if not younger, but you just like, such a huge talent gone so soon, but amazing. I love this song. And if there's any song that he owned that was not his, much like Aretha and Respect, like this is one where he just completely embodies this song for me.
That's great.
Makes me sigh with delight. My number two, like you, Sam, I had a number two that I was like, this should be number one, this should be number one. And I debated up until minutes before this podcast. I really couldn't decide. It ends up at number two. I also think I've made a terrible mistake. My number two is also Cigarettes and Coffee.
Hey.
You nailed it. Everything you just said. I mean, there were a lot of soul singers that could bluster their way through the fast stuff, or like just belt it out. Otis, man, on these slow songs, the way he just carries them through, I feel like is singular. As I said earlier, I had no idea he was such an incredible lyricist. He is romantic as fuck, you guys. Holy, I mean...
It's funny because women hated him. They just didn't seem to like him at all.
Totally.
Holy
Not at all
moly.
popular.
Oh, the footage of the women in the crowd just like fawning is
what does he say in this song? Like all the good-looking girls I've met, right?
Right.
It just, I said on the last one I couldn't go slower on I've Been Loving You Too Long, but here too, like, no one's in a hurry. That chord progression, each chord is just better than the last. You're like, yes, that's exactly where the song goes next. That's exactly where. And he just takes his time going through. It almost feels like he keeps almost falling behind, and he's somehow just like, he's just barely keeping up with like the pace of the music. It's languid. It's just so, I'm doing $10 words tonight. It just takes its time. And, we talked about, I cannot get, satisfaction and all the things in satisfaction. In this one, it is, if you would take things under consideration, the way you sing that. I mean, you could not be like more polite in your pleading. Jim, what episode was it? You were talking about, you'll remember, it's escaping me right now. In one episode, you were talking about how, it's escaped me, but it was late at night. The party was basically over. You guys were sitting around, and one of your friends put on a song, and everybody in the room just kind of perked up like, what is that? Do you remember telling that story?
No, but...
it was Elvis Costello. It was I Want You. It was I Want You on Lemon Chocolate.
That's right.
That image came to my mind. This feels like a song. The party's dying down. People are chilling down. You put this on, like, you've won the night. People are like, holy shit, you put the exact right song at the exact... So beautiful. I love your story too, Sam, about staying up, because that fits. This is like a song for the wee hours, not just because the opening lyric. It's beautiful, and I've made a terrible mistake.
That's great.
Nice one. My number two is another one I didn't think was going to be so high. It's Can't Turn You Loose. It is such a chugger, and I couldn't put my finger on it. Yes, it's got the Blues Brothers riff, but what I think I like about it, maybe, I don't know why, because we're talking about how great Otis is. It's the only song on this whole album where it's more about the band than him. That groove is really about the drums and the horns, and he's in there, but it's not like his vocals aren't super out front.
Yeah.
It's not him screaming and pulling you in. It's more about, someone said that it's samey, but in that way that we love and talk about songs on this podcast, that it just could go on forever. There's like a really simple fill that he does a few times on the drums, but otherwise it's just this great chugging song. It was a number 11 R&B hit, number 37 pop. So by this point he was getting big pop hits. It was also a hit for the band the Chamber Brothers as well, which I thought was interesting. Yeah. But what a tune. Number 2.
My number 2 is Try a Little Tenderness. You guys mentioned 2 movies, The Commitments and Pretty in Pink, but you didn't mention Bull Durham, which is the first time I heard this. They're on the bus, and Tim Robbins has the guitar, and he says, women get woolly.
Right.
Yes, they get woolly.
Because of all the stress.
And Kevin Costner has to go back and teach him the right lyrics.
Wow. No way.
And it is...
No way that was before Pretty in Pink. No way. Same year?
No.
I don't know. All I know is that's the
that's
I didn't
the first
have no
one you
idea
think
that
of.
was Otis.
Right.
I had no idea that was Otis when I saw Bull Durham. So anyway, the opening horns of Try a Little Tenderness, na na na, is a Christmas special by Rankin and Bass. Like that's what it totally made me think
so
of that.
Like sad little horns.
And then the lyrics start, and then the drumstick click on the edge of the snare, and and it's building, and I'm thinking of you guys watch Saturday Night Live. Ooh wee, what's up with that? What's up with that? It's totally building. You know it's coming. Up, and then the guitar strokes. The ding, ding, and at 2:51 of a 3 minute and 21 second song, this song reaches its crescendo, its full volume. It's like, okay, and now here we go, and then it's over.
Right. Fades out.
I just love. Yeah, it fades out. I love what a special song this is. Number 2 for me.
It's interesting. I didn't really realize this. That the last thing that was playing before I stopped and came on the Zoom watching this Soul Ambassador documentary was, I knew that it was a really old song, like a standard. And funny enough, before I looked up who else had done it, for some reason I've heard a version of Jimmy Durante doing it, and I only know Otis, but that's the one I know for some reason.
Yeah. She may be weary. Women do get weary wearing the same shabby dress.
But so I guess the people who controlled the copyright, I thought I don't know how the laws have changed over the years, but I thought if you cover a song, as long as you pay the publisher, you don't have to get their permission. So, but apparently, talk about the sign of the times, and they talked a lot about the racism that was obviously going on in the Deep South in the 60s. The people who controlled the copyright didn't want him to cover it because they thought it would tarnish the song's brand. Like it was covered by people like Bing Crosby and Frank Sinatra, and the people were saying like, oh, I don't want this dirty, soul music to be associated with it, because then no one will want to cover it because it's been associated with this. Like, so they sued them and lost apparently because it came out. I don't know the full story, but geez, such a great song.
Yep,
such a great song that it's my number 1.
Well, 1 out of 4 ain't bad.
Oh, she may be weary. Them young girls, they do get wearied wearing that same old shaggy dress. Yeah. But when she gets weary, try a little tenderness.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd really debated between this one and Cigarettes and Coffee for me, because it is. as much as Cigarettes and Coffee is Otis, you know, it does have that pleading. It does have that strong emotion. This one, I mean, it's burned into my brain, that scene from Pretty in Pink with Ducky. And that's, I'm pretty sure the first time I heard it, and I probably had to go seek it out, like who did this. But you know, then that's the question. Is it great because it's in a pivotal scene, because it's in one of the most loved movies of the 80s, which, by the way, is an absolute shit movie.
I was going to say, I thought you hated that movie.
I absolutely do. Or is it great because it's a standard from the 30s, right? Like you said, like Bing Crosby did it, and Frank Sinatra did it, and you listen to their songs, and that's one of the things, too, that somebody was mentioning earlier about, like, the lyrics and how he sings. You don't even get the sense that it's a rhyming song. It does, but the way Otis comes at it and like puts, like, you know, he'll put like a extra word here, or, you know, an extra phrase there, and so it's more of just the emotion of the song and how he elevates it to a different place than it had been recorded before. And to me, like, that's the answer. Like, that's why it's great, because, you know, again, please do go listen to, like, the Bing Crosby or the Frank Sinatra versions. They're almost unrecognizable as the same song, and, you know, great singers. I love Bing, I love Frank, but there is no way that this is anybody else's song than Otis Redding's. And, you know, so what you said, Adam, like, I can't even imagine somebody. I can't, because racism, and it's the U.S. But but, like, I mean, this is one of those, like, where, like, you know, in the movie or whatever, they say that, and then they hear his version, they're like, oh my gosh, and then, you know, have a change of heart or whatever, like, you know, white savior bullshit that you get in movies. But this is, like, so different. For me, this is like Mark Kozelek's cover of the AC/DC songs, right? Like, it's unrecognizable. The other songs are completely different, and if you're not familiar with the AC/DC versions, you know, you'd mistake them for these tender love ballads. Of course, you know, Love Hungry Man, or my favorite one, Love at First Feel, that Mark Kozelek does. And that's the first time I heard that song, and I was like, this is so tender, it's so beautiful, you know, this is Love at First Feel.
It was love at first feel. It was love at first feel.
You listen to the AC/DC song, you gotta go take a shower afterwards because it's so gross. You know, but so you know, this is one of the greats of the 20th century in my view, and you know, it's his interpretation is defining, from the opening nursery rhyme horns to the hyped up ending. It's career defining, and it's my number one.
Nice.
All right.
I just the other day re-listened to the Ride episode. And at one point in that episode, I say, Sam, you and I are clearly the two biggest Ride fans of all time, because we ordered things so similarly. So I'm going to say that, Sam, you and I are the biggest Otis Redding fans of all time. I knew it this whole time. My number one is Try a Little Tenderness.
Nice.
I've talked about loving Otis when he just friggin' lets everything out of the chamber, just kind of empties the whole thing. And I love when he's just singing those slow ballads. And so how could I not rank number one the song that does both of those? It's two songs in one. Jim, you talked us through the whole progression, which I, of course, had written down exactly, including the time notation when it picks up. So thank you for doing that. I don't have to cover that territory. It's just so phenomenal. And what you said about him covering and just absolutely owning it, it's like, okay, fine, he had respect stolen from him, but to your point, he stole this. Like, this is his. Adam, you nailed it, though. One of the biggest reasons I thought about not ranking this number one is it is a crime how quickly this fades out. Like, I appreciate in some ways how late it turns into, like, you know, this much faster up tempo, but I just kept not being able to get over, like, that producer should be in prison. It's just, he was way too aggressive with the fade out. It's insane. So Jim and I always talk about how we don't do our homework like outside of looking up live versions and stuff, just to keep it really pure on like the album. But this is one where I was like, surely, don't call me Shirley, live, he's got to turn this up. And so I found one version and it was like so-so, it didn't really deliver. But then finally I found it. And I'm going to send the clip to you guys afterwards. Maybe he did this all the time. I haven't watched Monterey. I don't know. But I found a show from Norway in 1967, so it clearly was close to the time of his death. The song is twice as long, literally. Like the notation on thing, it's 6 minutes instead of 3. But they play at least twice as fast. So it's actually 4 times as long by the time they get through. And the first part of the song is a faithful recreation. And then it goes into where it picks up. And he leaves the stage. Thank you guys. Good night. And not once, not twice, 3 times he comes back out. And each time there's the formal white man announcer in this suit that says, "Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Otis Redding."
Also for the end, what an applause for Otis Redding.
The European crowd like claps, and he like comes back out James Brown style, like I can't be held back by these curtains, and he comes back out, and it's like got to, and the crowd goes crazy, and hold me, squeeze me, and all that stuff, and it's a 60s crowd in Norway, and so like a lot of crowds back then, they're all in neat little rows. They're like so well behaved and stuff. And by like the second and third time he comes out, you guys, you just see the crowd like lose shape. Those lines like collapse. They're losing their shit. Their hands are in the air. They're starting to like push each other in a very polite way, but like the crowd is like slowly coming apart, and he's got them eating out of the palm of their hands. And I gotta say, it was so satisfying. I was like, that's exactly what makes this song number one. Like, you can tell that that's what the song has in it. In fact, when I went back and listened to it, I couldn't believe how short the ending was. I think you naturally extend it in your brain because you just feel it like building and building. Anyways, I'm going to send that clip around and we'll put in the show notes, because I was
That's great.
I watched it like 3 times in a row. It's so satisfying.
That's awesome.
That's so great.
I haven't seen that. I think Monterey's very similar to
that's probably his shtick. I would not be surprised.
Bam, like at the end, it's just like, and I also read that the drummer, like I think the first time they did it, the drummer was like, we had no idea he was going to go like up the tempo like that at the end, and and they just followed him, which is very cool to think of.
So great. Yeah, totally.
That is excellent. Before I say my number one, we have a guest ranker, and I think at least Sam knows about this. A few months ago, I got an email that a guy who is part of a podcast called The Casual Sound, which is a bunch of guys in Denver, right where Sam lives. One of them is British, but lives in Denver now. And he saw my band Guns N' Roses play in England, loved it, and they mentioned us on the podcast. It's almost like it didn't happen until we got no press, no nothing. One podcast of Denver guys randomly mentioned that we were good at this festival. So it did happen. Super nice guys. They play a lot of music that we like, mainly 80s and 90s Brit stuff. And they were coming to San Diego for holiday. They do it once a year. So they came out and said, "Do you want to hang out?" And thought we were all in San Diego, but it was just me. So I went to hang out with them. Super nice guys. And they love the podcast, which is really flattering. We don't get almost any feedback on this podcast. We got an amazing one today from Poland, of all places. Thank you so much. But he gave us some really great feedback and told us, how much he loves it. And he was asking what's next. And I told him that we were doing Otis Redding. Usually I don't tell anyone anything, but I told him how Sam had picked one type, and then we actually changed it and I said I was happy because there were a bunch of slow songs, and he said, well, that was kind of his thing. That's why Mr. Pitiful, I see one of the only songs that we haven't talked about, was written, because he was referring to himself as being this like pitiful guy. He did a lot of slow songs. Well, it turns out that the main guy from their podcast, Tyler Jacobson, he does a very popular soul night in Denver, and they've done all these huge events, including stuff at Red Rocks. They spun before Lenny Kravitz at Red Rocks and all the other great things. So I thought he might be a good guy to ask what is his favorite Otis stuff.
Of course.
This.
Hey there, We Will Rank You. This is Tyler Jacobson of the Casual Sound Podcast and also of Mile High Soul Club, a cool soul club night here in Denver. I love your podcast. Thanks for doing it. And thanks for giving me the opportunity to rank the best of Otis Redding, 1984. I'm going to start off on number 12, and I'm going to get a little dark with it. My number 12 pick is Sittin' on the Dock of the Bay. The reason I'm going to get dark is because, like when the Smiths did Strange Ways, like it was okay, but you're glad that they broke up because you knew what was coming next probably wasn't going to be their best output. That's kind of how I feel about Sittin' on the Dock of the Bay, if I'm going to be honest. It was released posthumously, and you're like, yeah, I wonder what Otis would have done. I'm just saying that it feels like we might have been coming to the end of the greatness of Otis Redding. It's pretty basic, and it's almost none of what I love Otis for. There's nothing challenging in that song. Now let's jump all the way up to number 3. Number 3 is going to be Hard to Handle. That song is just one undeniable hook after another. How can you not love Hard to Handle? Number 2, I actually thought this was going to be number 1. It started on my list as number 1, but number 2 is Mr. Pitiful. Tremendous song. It's got a great origin story, and I love that part of the end where he says, I want you. It's just one of my favorite parts in music forever. And then coming in at number 1, I Can't Turn You Loose. The whole song, it's an exercise in restraint. It knows it could be a banger. It knows it could be bigger, and it wants to explode. But nope. It's just going to keep being a never-ending fuse, doused in Otis's pain and frustration. It's truly a song that's bigger than itself. Absolutely deserves to be at space number 1. So that's it. That's what I got for you. I can't wait to hear what you guys come out with, and I can't wait to hear this episode, and not just because my voice is on it.
Nice. Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Tyler.
Oh, my God.
Some good
All
imagery
right.
there.
Right.
Okay, that was good. I like. First of all, I thought he was going to go 12-1. In that detail. That I was like, oh my God.
It was
Let's
just like
jump to number 3, and he kept it tight, and I like it. I like the burning fuse, man.
Yeah,
He could.
it's good.
He can do this pod.
Yeah. So he said a lot of things about tension and burning fuses that is exactly in line with my number 1. I got on a wicked Otis kick after I got that box set, and at some point I wanted to write a song like that. I wanted to write kind of a slow burner Stax Otis song. We had a song early when Rookie Card started with another singer who I shared vocal duties with. It was great, and it almost sounded like one of those prom songs, these slow prom songs, and I loved it so much, and I wanted to write something kind of like that. So I wrote this song called I Wish I Missed You.
I wish I missed you like you miss me.
And it came out great. I couldn't believe it. And it's simple, and it's hard to write a song that's simple like these 60 songs and have it be good. And I was like, oh, this is great. And so we recorded it. I got a guy who plays sax, this guy John Roy, who played in ska bands around town and has played with everybody from OMD to Dave Wakeling to do the horn parts. It sounded fantastic. And when I went to go sing it, I couldn't. I'm not that kind of singer. I'm a good screamer, but I can't do both like Otis does. And I was so mad. I was like, and we were going to scrap it. And I got the idea to bring in a friend of mine, Angela Correa, who, if you've seen the movie Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, she's the singing voice for his companion. And we made it into a duet. And it's great. What she does is great, but it's still not what I wanted because I'm no Otis. And I always wanted a real blues singer to be able to do it. The Bee Gees wrote "To Love Somebody" for Otis, and he died before he could record it. Apparently, I don't remember if he heard it or not, but you've heard Janis Joplin do it. You've heard other soul singers do it. And it's always so incredible to hear what can be done with that kind of song, that slow song, and. So I didn't think this one was good. All these songs I didn't think were going to be so high, but for me, I've Been Loving You Too Long is the ultimate as far as tension, and it never speeds up, and it could, like kind of what Tyler was saying about Can't Turn You Loose, like it could turn into a Try a Little Tenderness song, but it's like it's restraining him, and you feel like, you know, knowing what he can do with fast songs, it's like he wants to break out and he's pleading, you know, and not to mention the fact that he's talking about a love that's gone cold, so you're feeling that loss. So incredible. And for me, surprisingly, that's the one that I love best.
Awesome. It's a good one.
Great pick. Yeah.
Wow.
Bring us home, Jim.
I mean, I'm going to bring you home, and I feel like a schmo just like picking the hit, you know. My number one.
We all knew it was coming. We all knew it.
Someone had to. Someone had to.
Yeah.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll in, then I'll watch them roll away again.
God, I have reasons, but okay. So here's what I wrote. 2,000 miles I roam. So I looked up the mileage from Macon, Georgia to San Francisco, California, and it's 2,587 miles. It would take one day and 13 hours of driving straight through to get here. I love the whistle. I think it's such a strong, you know, I don't know.
I do too.
It's distinctive when it hits you on the radio as a kid, you know, when you're in your mom's car and you're driving around listening to all the old music. It just makes this song stand out. It is such a mood, this song, that it's just listen, I'm not going to say the first time I heard it was in Top Gun, because I heard it before that, but when it's done in Top Gun and Tom Cruise leans in to Kelly McGillis and says, you know, God, this music reminds me of, you know, of my parents or my dad or whatever. You know, he's right. It's that kind of song. The lead guitar licks are as good as the lead guitar on Allison by Elvis Costello. I mean, it is. It's just, it sings. You know what I mean? And it's so crucial. And I love the lead guitar in this song. The bridge is great. It's one of those classic bridges from these, you know, verse chorus bridge songs that kind of. There's a little more urgency to the bridge, you know, in the song, and then it kind of falls into the verse. So I guess I'll remain the same. I'm just, and then you're back in there.
Some great chords in there. Like the way is it really simple? Have you played it on guitar?
That's funny. My dad always played it on guitar. I think he would always fake his way through the bridge because he only knew the verse and the chorus, and he always played it too damn fast. I was like, slow down. This is anyway.
It's a song about relaxing. Come on, Dad.
Yeah, and it's I gotta say, it's definitely not number 12 on the album. What the hell was that?
And Tyler's not alone. Like I said, like Steve Cropper, and like I think it was his widow. All these people were talking about how they were so surprised when they heard. I'm like, what? It's great. Like, okay. To each their own. Purists.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's my number one, and I think that rounds it out. I could tell you guys the top 5 ranking.
Wait, no, before you do that, by my accounting, and you'll know this better than me, I think there were 3 songs that none of us ranked. Yeah. Except Tyler ranked one of them. If you include Tyler, that takes away Mr. Pitiful. But interesting. And interestingly, Respect. Yeah, I was wondering if anybody would rank Respect. So that's interesting.
Yeah. So Respect, Love Man, and Mr. Pitiful. Yeah.
The only reason I wanted any of those to be mentioned was that so I can mention the one line that Aretha added to hers that is always I'd never heard it before until I saw it on my karaoke screen. She says, "You're running out of food," and I ain't lying. What? You're running out of food? I thought it was fuel or something. No, you're running out of food, and she's not lying.
And
No, she's
and
not.
She added that, and it's not in Otis's.
No,
version?
I like was listening for it. I'm like,
wow.
Okay.
I would have mentioned if Love Man got mentioned, I would have said that's such a great groove. Like that's one of the groove that hits me on that. The horns are the star of it, and I just always love how he like lists off his stats. 6'1", 210 long legs.
I mean,
like,
that is that song is great, but that's all that song is. So I appreciate it, but that's why it's not top 5 in my mind. Yeah.
But all that stuff referencing, like we talked about Mr. Pitiful, but also Love Man, and I'm like, he had some other nicknames, and I looked him up: the Big O, the Madman from Macon,
the Big O,
Rockhouse Redding, and the King of Soul.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. If we talked about Mr. Pitiful, I was going to say that's a perfect song for that Soul Train, or the you remember at the end of Footloose, where they're dancing down the road, friends,
right. The stroll.
It's perfect
stroll.
with the stroll. That's it. And you got your thumbs in your jeans pockets with all your fingers out, and you're kind of just doing I could just picture it.
Okay, well, awesome. good thing we didn't talk about those songs. We didn't mention any of those things.
Yeah, no,
right.
But we would have loved.
Why would we?
We have a tie for 4th and 5th. Fa 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 fa, and I've Been Loving You Too Long, both tied for 4th place, I guess.
By the way, fun fact: Fa 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 was my number 11. Wow. Very low.
Wow.
Cigarettes and Coffee was 3rd place. Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, 2nd, and Try a Little Tenderness at number 1.
So one other thing I wanted to mention, because you were talking about like this, my parents' music and stuff like that. So me growing up on, the soul and the blues that my dad was always playing, and listening to especially like the Stax stuff. So when Ride's Carnival of Light album came out, there's a song on there called Endless Road.
Yeah.
The fiery sun burns from morning to evening across this stony plain where nothing grows.
And Carnival of Light at the time was not really well received by Ride fans, or I think by other people. I loved it, and the song Endless Road is a soul song in the Stax style, and I went ape shit over it, and I still do. I still think it's a great song. But yeah, so if you get a chance, go listen to that, and that's almost like the kind of like the Otis song that was written 30 years later or whatever by a bunch of white guys from England.
Yeah, totally. Well, happy 25th episode, everyone. I don't know if you could tell, but I am wearing a shirt made by Ska and Soul that I picked up in England, my new favorite clothing company in the world.
Nice.
I finally have a cool shirt, which I haven't had in maybe ever. So in continuing with our 4-part series on greatest hits albums, up next, Jim is going to let us all know that he's chosen Air Supply. The inevitable is about to happen. Just say it.
Please, God, no. Please, no.
25 episodes. Our podcast can go rent a car now.
Yeah, that's right.
Nice.
Adam, I have to stay in England.
I don't know what this is going to be. I'm so excited.
I do. I'm going to write it.
Okay.
When you announced greatest hits albums,
yes,
there was one thought in my mind, and it's never changed. It's the greatest hits album according to me ever.
Okay,
and
I think I know.
We've never spoken about this
then
band.
I don't
think on this pod.
Oh,
Dan, it's
then it's
time.
not it.
Oh no, we have.
Dan, then it is it.
Dan, it's time to kick out the style, bring back the jam. We are gonna do Snap by the Jam.
Holy shit. This was not my answer.
That's what I was thinking until you said band.
Yeah. Squeeze.
You thought I was going to do Squeeze?
Wow.
We can do that next.
Oh,
Dan,
snap.
you can pick that one.
Oh, shit. Well, it's only 38 songs, so it'll be...
So here's the thing, guys. In 1983, the Jam was broken up. They broke up in 82, but 83 the Snap comes out. And they also have Compact Snap. And so what I want you to do is listen to Snap, the entire thing, because we're going to rank Compact Snap right?
Wait, what?
But you're gonna have one. Stay with me, Adam.
Okay, I'm listening.
I want you to listen to one so that you can. We're gonna rank Compact Snap, and you're gonna say which song was left off that you needed to.
Okay, so in other words,
I cannot believe
the left off has to come from
they didn't
Snap,
include-
but we're going to rank off
Right.
Compact Snap.
Exactly, because it'll be a much shorter podcast that way.
I don't understand how,
Adam,
but okay.
question.
I don't understand how that's shorter, but okay.
Well,
we're not doing 38 songs on the podcast.
Right.
We're doing only.
But
12
Adam,
or
consider
whatever
that
it
your
is.
field of nominees for the song that was left off.
I understand that, but you seem to be very pro us doing just top 5 and last.
Oh, no.
So we're
doing the whole album. We're doing the whole album.
Got it. Okay, that's where I didn't understand. Okay.
But Compact Snap is still 21 songs, correct?
Yeah. I'm seeing 21 songs.
That sounds like a mega. Which one is not available on Spotify? So looks like we'll have to go.
Jesus.
Yeah, very weirdly.
Okay. Start is not on Tidal.
They stopped Start for some reason.
So they basically took the compact out of Compact Snap, is what you're trying to tell me, by making it 20-something songs.
21 songs. Good God.
They're all like, what is it, 78 seconds long, so it shouldn't be too long.
I've got some work to do.
Fun.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Sam, for the Otising.
Yeah, that was great.
I'm glad. I'm glad y'all enjoyed it. Well, except for Jim, maybe not on his runs, but but yeah. I mean, it's one of the greatest of all time. So I'm glad y'all enjoyed it too.
All right, 23 songs. Adam's about to go listen to it right now.
All right. See you next time, y'all. Please subscribe, rank, and review our show at your favorite local podcast shop, and send us a note to wewill.rankyoupod@gmail.com. Sam writes about music on the web at yourolderbrother.com, and Adam's stuff is at YERDOINgreat.com. If you like our little show, then you'll love all the fun stuff we post on our social media, so follow us at We Will Rank You Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and let us know what your most loved and least favorite songs are. Okay, bye.